Welcome to the Indie Musician Summit 2021 with your host, Kate Westwood, brought to you by Westwood Management.
Welcome back to the Musician Summit. I am Kate, I'm your host. I'm sure you're so glad to see my face again, but don't worry, I have a wonderful other face and an incredible guest to join us today. Her name is Aimee Davies. She's from the Aimee Project, and I'm so glad to have you with us on the summit, Aimee.
Oh, thank you for having me, Kate. I enjoy seeing your face anyway. So.
Look, it's the only one I've got, so make the most of it. I'm so stoked to have you on the summit. We've been connecting over the last year or so, and I love what you're doing to support artists and to look at taking care of them in a holistic way. So let me just throw over to you. I'd love for you to let all the attendees know a little bit about who you are and kind of how you've come to be where you are today.
Yeah, sure. So my name's Aimee. I'm a counsellor and I specialise working within the creative industries, and I'm also the founder of an organisation called the Aimee Project, or also Aimee for short, and we provide therapeutic support and education to the creative industries, but primarily the music industry itself. And that works with, like I was saying, sort of the therapeutic support, counselling, psychology, and then different types of support as well, mental health first aid, and various different workshops that I guess help you build upon your creative skill set as an artist, and also manage your mental health at the same time. So win-win, really.
There you go. Now you're in, is it Brisbane that you're in?
I am, yes.
Yeah. Yes. Have you always lived there? Do you have music as a part of your background? I'm interested to know a little bit more about, like, how did you decide this is what I want to do and I want to work in this industry? And
yeah, no, great question, because it's a bit of a I guess a different career path than I guess most counsellors take. So my background's in sound and audio. Also, like most creatives, I've sort of ventured and dabbled in different things as well. So I did an arts degree and majored in literature and drama. So but essentially my background is in sound and audio, and I had a couple of episodes sort of in my early 20s where some close loved ones of mine experienced some mental health episodes, and that really, I guess, sparked my interest in mental health and what it's actually like to experience it and live and have someone who you love in your life with mental health. So for about 4 or 5 years, I worked as a counsellor and therapy assistant for a charity, and I found that I was bringing a lot of my therapeutic skills back to my friends and community within the creative industries. So at the end of 2019, I made the decision to, I guess, remove myself, or sort of take a sidestep and put those therapeutic skills into the industry that I know and that I love working in the best, which is the creative industries. And I guess during that time when I was looking at starting Aimee, I originally wanted to just work for an organisation that provided the skills and services that Aimee does, and there just simply wasn't one. So there's quite a few services in the US and the UK, but as far as Australia and the availability, especially pre-pandemic, the resources were quite limited. So I found that quite odd. And also, I guess, I reached out to a few of these organisations over in the UK particularly, and they were actually working with some quite high profile artists such as Lewis Capaldi. So I guess the need and the calling for, I guess, the services that we provide, it was quite evident. So it was really just a matter of rolling it out. So I started Aimee in November of 2019 with myself, a psychologist friend, and just an admin support. And fast forward to today, we've got 25 practitioners and educators, and we provide support all over Australia. So yeah, it's been a bit of a whirlwind.
I love that. I'm really glad I pressed into that just to hear a bit more of, your motivation, like why you wanted to jump into this space, why it's important to you, and also, the evolution a little bit of Aimee. And of course, with this incredible digital world that we're living in, whether we love or hate Zoom meetings, it's so accessible. We're used to it now. It means it gives us access to people across the world. And I have loved seeing some really open doors around this whole thing of, hey, if you need a counsellor, you don't actually have to leave your home anymore. You can just call in and they'll do a Zoom, or they'll connect with you digitally and virtually, which means that a lot of those barriers where people might even have some of those social anxiety issues that just leaving the house or sitting in a waiting room or meeting a new person. I just love that we're using this incredible technology to actually really help and reach people that may not have connected previously. So I love that you've stepped into that, and also that you looked to see, is there anything happening in our nation? We see this gap. What can we do? And you kind of learned, I guess, from what other people are doing and thought, yeah, there is a need. And I mean, in 2 years, jumping to, 25 practitioners, that says that there's a need, right? That says that there actually are people willing to jump on board and do this. So we want to connect. What has that been like, being the counsellor, but also running an organisation?
Yeah, sure. Oh my goodness. Such a great question. So I guess, so as an evolution, Aimee has been quite an organic, where we stand today has been very organic. It's almost been a bit of a call and response development, I guess, of where we are today. So when we started, we originally just wanted to start with providing social and emotional support for artists, front of house, obviously, and back of house at live events, so festivals, arena tours, etc. So you touched on there, Kate, social anxiety and the anxiety of being in groups and performing, right? And that's something that's very close to my heart. I know that when I experienced an episode of anxiety, when we were open, the first thing that would go for me were live events and live music, and there's something that's so tied up in, I guess, my identity and how I enjoy to spend my time and I guess just a hobby almost. Well, it is, yeah, it's a hobby as well as my job, but that part was something that was really near and dear to me, and as I had sort of reached out to friends, family, network, and sort of let them know what direction I was deciding to go down, it was really evident that sort of social anxiety in groups, even pre-pandemic, was so proficient, and there was just so much of it. Touching back on those examples of organizations and I guess levels of support that were in the UK and in the US. So about the same time, I touched on Lewis Capaldi. So Lewis was doing an arena tour, and he was working with an organisation called Music and You, who is run by a lovely chap called Jack Williamson. And it was a program that I guess I really resonated with. I know my community resonated with, and so we had sort of been liaising back and forth to see how it would go with them, what the community response would be, and we would ideally like to have rolled out that program. So it was initially called our Gig Initiative, or it's now called Loop, which is a live event wellbeing program, in festivals and in arena tours sort of in the summer of 2020. Obviously, it did not happen. So, come, I guess, February, March, April, we were sort of put on pause for a little bit. We'd worked so hard to really gather down this path, and the counselling and all the stuff we're doing now was going to come, but, it was going to come in sort of the 18 months to 2 year plan, definitely not straight away. And I guess, we were just put on pause. I remember in May sort of just sitting for a week or two thinking, oh my gosh, like, we weren't too sure how long this was going to last or what it was going to look like and what the community was going to experience. So, and then obviously, tours were cancelled, flights were cancelled, and our community was performing on Instagram Live and doing things, I guess, at home. And like I was saying, Aimee has really been formed on that sort of call and response method, I guess, which is sort of where our community sort of told us what they need, and we've sort of run to be the answer to that, because there was not those sorts of support available. Obviously, Support Act is a fantastic resource for anyone in the live music industry that provide grants crisis support and a phone line, but we really want to push the preventative support, and before you get to the crisis, before you're really in that dark hole, providing that support. So so from there we started with our therapeutic support, so our counsellors, psychologists, social workers and psychotherapists, which all specialise in the creative industry. So it's quite interesting working with creatives, but also like mental health practitioners. And then from there, obviously we couldn't do face-to-face, so we've done Zoom, which has been fantastic, and the government's been able to bulk bill any psychologist sessions. So we've got some amazing, I guess, services that people can access bulk billed. But also, the Zoom was part of our original business model, where we were looking at being able to access, or our community being able to access that support no matter where they are. Because when we are open and active and buzzing economy, our community is quite transient, whether they're on tour or recording elsewhere, to have some sort of access to their practitioner no matter where they are, and that stability is really, really important. So it was something that we definitely wanted to include originally, but I guess we've sort of brung that to the forefront and developed that. And then we've obviously brought in our mental health first aid, our breathwork and meditation workshops, and it's just sort of accrued from there. So it's quite exciting, and also quite, I guess it's really lovely to sort of have such a collaborative pooling of resources and being able to curate the social enterprise to be a model that I guess our communities definitely reach for, rather than us sort of trying to put something together and pushing it up a hill and being like, listen to us. So so it's been, like I said, we've got a team of about 25 practitioners and educators, so it's been a whirlwind, but the positive response and I guess the positive outcomes we've had from launching our services and diving into the deep end and really, I guess, niching in on that creative industries has been, I guess, a welcomed response. So yeah, it's been interesting and challenging at the same time.
Sure. Even having to learn how to run your own business as well, and get that help and support as a creative, trying to figure that out rather than just going to work for somebody else, which is what most creatives have to do as well. Like, that's a whole nother kettle of fish. I'd love to touch on what you were saying there around, like, in Australia we have this thing called bulk bill, so we're going to have people from all over the world, which means that it's part of our Medicare government medicine thing. So you don't have to pay for it, you just have to have your Medicare card, and it's covered as one of them, which is great. And I do think that for me, when I think about getting counselling or help or support in this area, there would be two things that would be really a barrier. One is just the insecurity of, I don't know if I need help, or I've never done it before, and so it's a strange thing, and does that mean I'm broken if I have to get therapy? But also, how do I afford this? It seems like you have to pay $200 an hour, and who can afford to do that? And who can have that as an ongoing thing as a part of your life? And so for you to be able to say, hey, look, this is easy to do, no matter where you are in the world, but also it can be affordable. Do you think that that's something that, would I be right in saying those two things are a barrier?
Yeah, oh no, 100%. I think, accessing any sort of therapeutic support at the best of times is scary, and it can be difficult, and we ask ourselves, do I need that? I don't think I'm at that stage where I need to talk to someone, and the monetary value definitely comes into it as well. I think the average psychologist fee is about $260, $300 an hour now, so it's a lot of money. And if you're in an industry that has essentially been put on pause, it can be quite difficult to be able to provide that or access that type of support. So yeah, completely. They're massive hurdles that we need to overcome. And I guess with the bulk bill, even with bulk bills, so if you did be able to access a mental health care plan, and then from there be able to, I guess, find a practitioner, get in with a practitioner in time, usually there is still a gap on top of the bulk bill fee. What I did find in starting Aimee is that there were supports, but they were very limited, and they were very exclusive when, you know, we are such a varied community from age, experience, career level, etc., you know, income levels. So, hey mate, wherever we can be, we try to be inclusive and accessible as possible. You know, they're two things that are very, very important to me, especially with working in a charity. You know, you sort of, when I was previously working in a charity, you do really see those sort of hurdles. So no, they're massive hurdles, and it can be quite hard to overcome. So I think for us to be able to not only pool those sort of practitioners together that are skilled in that particular area, but also be able to have them at an accessible rate, or you know, even being bulk billed, was really, really important to me. And you know, people are actually quite shocked, or they almost expect still to pay a fee when they do access our services. So and even, you know, the full fee practitioners that we do have, so like counsellors, where you can't get them bulk billed, psychotherapists, etc., unless you have private health, which may cover a part of it. You know, that hourly rate is still quite minimal compared to, I guess, your standard recommended rates as well, because we want to see that continuous work and I guess that accessibility that I touched on before. And I also think having to talk to someone, there's this massive misconception that when you talk to someone, or you go talk to a therapist or a counsellor or a coach or any sort of mental health practitioner, you really need to be at the bottom, and that's not the truth at all. You know, in fact, our best work comes from seeing someone continuously, even when we are what we would deem ourselves to be okay. You know, practitioners aren't a band-aid. They don't fix you and then you're cured. You know, managing your mental health and illness and episodes, it's a constant. It's something we're going to have to cover constantly in our lives. So, you know, although we have people that sort of see us for a while and then they feel like they're thriving again, can obviously, you know, go and be their best and work on those projects that are really excited and sort of free that time up in their life. That's fantastic. But also to know that, you know, they have someone safe to be able to come back to and talk to and work on those hurdles. But you definitely don't need to be at your bottom or be considered, you know, mentally ill to, I guess, access those services as well. So it's something that I recommend doing even when you're at your very best, because it provides insights and support that perhaps you may not have for yourself. So yeah,
it's so great to know, because I do think some of these things we think, oh, this is, you know, in case of emergency. So if I'm in an emergency, you know, you don't need to go to the hospital or the ER unless there's something that you can't fix at home or you can't look after yourself. And I do think, you know, that especially if, as you were saying, it's not in your wheelhouse, it's not something you're used to or comfortable with, then you're not going to prioritize it, no matter what the cost. And so definitely working in the creative industries, I love that you're seeking to really encourage people through the door into this healthy living, no matter what their income level and no matter what their challenge level is. And I think that's wonderful, because we just don't, you know, you think about therapy and it's going to cost you hundreds of dollars. Well, no, I don't have that money, let alone whether I would want to do it or not. And so then it ends up being we only do it when we've broken our leg or cut our hand off. You know, that's when you go to the doctor, not when, you know, things are just okay. So I love that perspective and that encouragement. And I really hope that as attendees are watching within this summit, realizing, yeah, maybe I could just reach out. You know, I don't have to be at rock bottom to see how I can connect and see how I can strengthen it and grow myself. And so that's wonderful. That's so wonderful.
Oh, thank you.
I love it. So we are talking about mental health. We're in the summit talking to Ali Taylor, who is the CEO and founder of Listen Up Music, which is very practical, community-based charity focused on mental health around musicians. And every speaker that we're speaking to as well, we're asking the question of what are you doing with your mental health? Because we want it to be in this crazy pandemic world of normally people who are doing totally fine and have, you know, are really positive and are struggling, let alone people who are already, you know, on the brink of having, you know, anxiety episodes and and bouts of depression and those kind of things. And so, you know, I really think mental health is a big deal at the moment. You know, it is a bit of a buzzword. Do you think that that's right? Is that true and appropriate? And why do you think it's such a big deal and so important for us to pay some attention to it?
Yeah. Wow. Is it a buzzword? Look, I think it's a buzzword because for the last 18 months we've been experiencing it, right? It's whatever your thoughts are on what's currently going on and what your beliefs are, the one thing that we can believe on is that it's been a really, really challenging time. We've been removed from loved ones, you know, our careers may be put on pause and we're deemed non-essential workers. So to have something that can be so essential to people like myself, you know, I said that when I have anxiety, live music was one of the first things that went, and that was quite essential to me and my hobbies and my friends and I guess just my well-being in general. So to have that removed, it's quite challenging. So completely, is mental health a buzzword? Yes. Why? Because we're all experiencing it. I guess the term mental health, it depends on what your thoughts are on it. So mental health in general actually isn't the negative connotations that we usually discuss with it, right? So, oh, what's wrong with you? Oh, it's my mental health. So our mental health is actually just the mental version of our physical health. So we may be thriving or we may have a broken leg. And so that's actually with our mental health as well. So our mental health is actually about what's going right in our lives rather than what's going wrong. So how we monitor our mental health is by monitoring those things that are going right. Obviously, with what's happening, a lot of things that are usually going right in our lives aren't going right. You know, they're going quite wrong. We're removed from friends, family, etc. Why is it such a buzzword? Obviously, yeah, what I just touched on. And then what was the other? Sorry, Kate, what was the
why is it so important that we pay attention to what's going on?
Oh, yes. So why is it so important that we pay attention to what is going on? I think because we know that we're experiencing it, and then also the people within our community are experiencing it, our friends, families, etc. You know, we want action and we want to build knowledge and we want to build, I guess, skills around things that we're experiencing. So to make or want to make change, we usually have some sort of empathy because we've experienced it. So if you look at, you know, any sort of cause that is worthwhile to you, so that might be refugees, that might be the fires, homelessness, etc. So if you have empathy, you really want to make a change towards that. We're obviously all experiencing it, so we're all experiencing empathy towards people that are having the same challenges as us. I think also as a community and as an industry, we aren't open usually to having discussions with our peers about how our mental health is, right? Like, we don't want to be the artist that has had a bout of depression or might be, you know, quite down for a few days, because if we tell this person, then they might not book us for like our next weekend gig, etc. So, but I think that now as a community, we're quite open to, obviously no one's working and everyone's experiencing these challenges, whether you're an amateur or up and coming or professional, we're all experiencing it. So I think the discussion is quite there and quite open. You know, we've got Ali from Listen Up, we've got Support Act, we've got myself, you know, all these organisations that are offering discussions and skills, and the community is quite open to, I guess, building those skills because they see it individually as a need. I also think with sort of the last 18 months, we've also sort of questioned why elite performers, because as performers, you know, to perform at a certain level, even at an amateur level, we need to have a certain level of elite skill to be able to do that. You know, there's the hours of practice, there's the learning our instruments, there's the songwriting, there's the marketing, there's the accessing venues, you know, there's all of this work that goes in behind it. Why is that considered lesser to, say, sport, who have sport psychologists? You know, they've got access to elite practitioners and elite support, and I think we're sort of questioning, you know, sports versus arts, and especially live music. they're actually quite similar as far as what they need to thrive in their skill sets. And yeah, so I think as different organizations are sort of exploring that, and also artists as well, you know, so like besides the really basic sort of supports that they've previously had, or exercises that they've learned, vocal or instrumental, there's all of these other things that they can be doing as an artist to build upon their skill set and their ability to perform at a higher level or a peak level than before. So it's quite a very exciting time at the moment to be having these discussions, because also, you know, it's something that as a community we're so open to. People are quite open to listening to, you know, the mental health support side of, I guess, the creative industries and the music. Whereas when we started, you know, it was something that we all sort of knew, but it wasn't considered in the vogue, or like you were saying, a buzzword or trendy. And not that mental health is trendy, but it is current. And I think if it's current and it's at the forefront of our minds, we're more likely to do and learn more about it. So yeah. A good question.
So good. And I think in this world of, for example, social media, where, you know, we're so used to seeing this nice shiny picture, or it's just the highlight reel of other people's lives, you know, it's really easy to hide behind that shiny exterior, and to, you know, to just look good on the outside, but no one sees the challenge on the inside. And I love how you know, we're juxtaposing, you know, athletes and artists, because if an athlete has pulled a hammy, or, you know, broken their leg, or you know, pulled a muscle, they can't do the job, and it's really clear that they need some work. But if an artist can still sing and write and play, but be really, really in a dark place, and it's hidden and it's not visible, and it doesn't always necessarily mean that they can't do the job, because it's a hidden thing, and it's about our, so often connected to our value, is whether people like what we do or not, how good we are, how well received we are, and so I can see the challenge of actually elevating the need for having those practitioners around for the hidden things that we don't necessarily see, like a broken leg. And so I love the way that you're championing that, normalizing that this is something that all artists do, that, you know, we have a coach and we have a psychologist who we talk to regularly to help us, so that we can keep going, we can be at the peak, and be able to be the best we can be in that space. And so I love that, but also that we can just be a good human being, I think, as well.
Exactly. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, let's chat a little bit around some challenges that you're facing now. We may have touched on a couple of them. You know, around being an indie artist. So many people, we're going to have a broad range of people watching right now, and artists and musicians watching. Some have been around for a while. Others are just like, you know, I'm releasing my first single. How do I do that? How, you know, I want to understand the industry. So we've got a broad range. Do you see some really big challenges for artists at the moment? And what do you think that they could do to overcome some of those challenges from this perspective of taking care of our mental health?
Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, it's quite funny, because the largest, I guess, challenge that has been a common theme from since we've started and to now, and it, no matter what sort of level we're on, the biggest challenge I've seen with artists is that they are lacking connection, right? So as an industry, we are super social. We're always out at different gigs, we're touring, or we're going to open mic nights, you know, and we're trying to, I guess, find our tribe or our group of people. And so now that we're at home, how do we do that? Or, you know, people aren't in the cities anymore, or they might be back home because, you know, uni might be closed, or they might be a school leader and they wanted to move to the big cities and they can't because the hospitality, you know, venues aren't open, so their side hustles perhaps aren't making the income that would usually support those sorts of creative ventures as well. So we're put on pause at the moment, and we're also, like I was saying, sort of losing that connection. And it's like, how do you find that creative audience and group without being face to face, right? Where do they hang out online? And what I have found quite interesting is that, you know, we're all doing the same thing at the moment. We're all working from home, obviously. You know, you and I spoke about this before we got started, and that sort of shiny glimmer has sort of gone away. You know, we're all a bit more real, a bit more personal. We're all in our track pants. We're all hanging out at home, wanting to do something. We might have been, you know, working on a little bit of stuff creatively here and there, but I guess just in general, we're just sort of in the same place. And so what I found is we're all craving connection. So now is a better time than any, especially while we're sort of put on pause and have to physically take that step back, to reach out and find those connections. So whether it be other artists, whether it be, you know, PR, recording, therapeutic support, coaching, you know, anything, different organizations, it's a great place to, I guess, reach out, do some research, whether it's on, you know, even quite corporate sites like LinkedIn, like most like professional, either musicians or industry professionals have a LinkedIn page, and they're usually on that at least once a week. So like reach in on there, send emails to different organizations, you know, and set up a time to have a virtual coffee or connect, because people are quite happy to sort of connect over Zoom and understand what's going on. And I think that way you have the time to, I guess, curate this network that when we open back up, you'll have them already. You're sort of one step ahead of, I guess, being put on pause like the rest of us. And don't be afraid to open up about challenges, because I think when we share challenges with each other, or hurdles, especially if you're talking to other artists, they're more likely to relate and feel connected, and that relationship will be ongoing rather than a sort of a one-off virtual coffee, if you will. So I think as a community, that's probably the biggest, I guess, hurdle, but also trend that I found, is that we're so happy to connect and to meet other like-minded people within the industry, even if it may not be physically. And then it gives us an opportunity, once things start to open up, to, you know, reach out again and connect with them face to face, or work on projects, or gain skills that perhaps we may not have already, but when we do open up, we'll sort of have the forefront on. So yeah, it's quite an interesting but really exciting, I guess, challenge and trend that's happening at the moment, because I think as a society, not as a society, but as a community, we can be quite competitive with each other. You know, it's what do you have going on, what do you have going on, and where will you be next month? But we're all in the same boat, right? So that competitiveness, that shiny sort of trend has been put on the back foot, and we're all sort of just happy to chat about what's going on and share, you know, different projects that we've been working on. So yeah, I would say, you know, don't be shy and just put yourself forward. And if nothing comes of, you know, a conversation with someone, make a list of different people that you want to connect with. And if they don't get back to you, that's okay. Just keep on moving, and you're no further setback than where you are now. So yeah.
Yeah, I love that. And I think isolation is such a negative, can be so negative for us. And we can be isolated because we're not allowed to leave our home, but we can also isolate ourselves by how the amount of times I'm like, well, they probably don't want me to come, or that person doesn't like me, or we're assuming all these things. And so we isolate ourselves and we reject ourselves before we even give that person a chance to do that, because we're, you know, self-preservation, all those things. I mean, I'm definitely guilty of that many times. And, you know, it's a good indicator that, okay, why am I isolating myself? What's going on? And the value of community, especially in this time, not just for taking care of ourselves, but I love what you said there, for the ongoing development of our careers, of our just lives, to have people around us who are champions, who are encouragers, who want to see us succeed. That's so important, to find those people. And this is the right time to do that, right? Because there's no pressure. I love what you're saying, that, you know, there really is no competition, especially in this space. So that's amazing.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You know, and I think even if like not reaching out someone is your cup of tea, there are so many different industry organizations that are holding virtual networking and meet and greet, sort of like Zoom sessions where different people from the industries are piling on in and connecting, and you're chatting without sort of feeling like you're trying to really push the conversation or sell yourself or you know, I guess really forge that sort of connection. And it really does, you know, accumulate. You know, I know of one particular artist that we held an open mic night, like when the pandemic very first started, a Zoom one, and he was from rural New South Wales, and I've seen him on quite a few different virtual networking or like opportunities, and that he's just been working on his craft at home. And you know, I saw last week that he was on an MTV, I think he was on the TV channel, or he had been profiled by them, you know, and all of this while in lockdown, you know, and just connecting and working on his craft and building connection. And it's really exciting to see that it's not just, you know, the touring and sort of trying to meet people in pubs and clubs. It's really sort of changed the platform and the ways that we can sort of connect with each other, and people are so much more, I guess, open to forging those connections as well. So if I could just give one piece of advice today, it would just be just try. Just put yourself forward and see what will come, because I've seen firsthand artists, and also, you know, as an organization that's started, you know, just prior pre-pandemic, you know, we haven't had the opportunity to go out and meet our community face to face either. All of our, you know, networks and connections and even our clientele, you know, it's all being forged online or over the phone. So although I'm so bloody excited to get out there and meet people, and I've already got, you know, where I'm going and who I'm meeting straight away. But yeah, I guess, you know, if I had waited, I don't know where we would be. And it's the same as, you know, being an artist as well, or even, you know, even if you're doing tech or PR or whatever sort of behind the scenes or back end stuff you're doing for the industry as well, like, just make a move and just slowly start, you know, making those steps without having, I guess, you know, too many preconceived ideas, and really being open to the opportunities. And I think, especially, you know, we've probably got, another 3 or 4 months left of the year. So I think there's so much time to make gains within that time being stuck at home. So, so that's actually quite exciting, really.
Yeah, I love that. You got to look at the silver lining, or the possibilities even in the challenges. I love that. Now, you said that's an incredible tip. Just try, just reach out, look to pursue community. Do you have any other tips or strategies for artists wanting to not necessarily like band-aid their mental health, but just to be aware of what's going on and to be able to take care of themselves before things get bad, I guess, in their mental health?
No, of course. It's so important, isn't it, to take care of your mental health, and I hope that's something that continues once we do open up, is that artists are more aware and more educated on how to take care of themselves and their mental health. I guess touching on how we were talking about connection and sort of forging networks, you really want to make a team. Whether you're an amateur or an up-and-coming or an elite, you know, you really want to make sure that you have that team around you of people that know you and support you and want to make the best for you. You know, that might be friends, that might be family, that might be a mentor, it might be a practitioner, you know, a coach. But we want at least sort of 4 or 5 people to sort of surround ourselves with, so we can get and pull support from different people, rather than, I guess, forging on alone and thinking that we can solve all of our problems. I completely understand that when you're up and coming or you're starting out, you're doing a lot of stuff yourself. You know, there's the budget and the skills, and you're sort of just, like I said, sort of forging the very start of your journey. But I think even having those few connections will really help you monitor your mental health. You know, it'll make things less lonely for you as well. You may feel more inspired and supported as well. And I think when we have those close people with us, you know, they can also encourage us to implement those things that make us feel good as well. So I think also as an artist, you know, besides having the team or our little network of people that are there to sort of support us and uplift us, it's really important that we have things in place that help us uplift ourselves as well. You know, any sort of good luck charms or stage mantras or things that we do just in case, you know, and if we do it this, it'll go perfectly. It can actually be quite dangerous. I'm not saying don't do it, but I'm saying you also want to do those things that are clinically proven to improve your mood, improve your anxiety, make you have, I guess, a clear sense of mind. So making a list of those sort of things that you can put in place now on your day-to-day routine, and that you'd also want to take with you when things do open up, that you can do sort of, you know, a pre-gig, post-gig, whether that be visualizing how something will go. That's a great way to minimize anxiety and worry about how a particular event will go. You know, are you doing your walks? Are you journaling? All these sorts of things. So making a list of what makes you feel good and that you want to sort of improve on and bring with you once things do open up. I would also say, you know, have goals. So we're clinically proven to be happier by having goals, no matter how big or how small that may be. We really want to make sure that we have those sort of bite-sized goals and those long-term goals as well. By having those bite-sized goals, we can then put a plan into executing them and getting to where we want to be. And so, you know, if you want to meet 4 or 5 people in the industry, if you're starting out, you know, start that and say you want to have that done by Christmas Day. So you've got at least the next 10 to 12 weeks. I'm not exactly sure, but you know, you've got a little while to get that sort of ball rolling. And then when things open up, you've got that network of people, and it's all quite interlinked, and you can sort of build that team and those practices behind that. I know I touched on this before, but sharing with your peers as well. You know, it's lovely to be that shiny person on stage and that personality or you know, your alter ego, whatever it might be for you. But you really want to make sure that you're sharing with people, especially your network or your sort of close friends that I was saying that will sort of support you during your journey, and your mentors. You really want to be sharing any worries, any questions, any concerns, any challenges that you're experiencing, because it's by having those discussions we sort of open up that can of worms, if you say, and work on it. You know, back and forth. You know, it might be something that you may just need some reassurance, or like I was saying, putting some manifesting or some visualization in. Or it may be something you need to talk to a coach about, or a vocal coach. You know, you may be worried about your voice, but you don't want to tell anyone because then they'll know. And it's by having those discussions that we will then be able to work on it and improve as artists. And I also think looking out for number 1 is imperative. I guess when we're getting our start, and also, you know, as things open back up, we're all sort of going to be in the same boat, aren't we? People are going to ask different things of us, and we really want to look after number 1, and we really want to make sure that the opportunities that come our way are suitable to us individually, but also as an artist, that they're worth our time, you know, and that the exchange of whatever that may be is appropriate. You know, we really want to make sure that we're valuing ourselves, our time, our craft, and not underselling ourselves. And also, probably my last one would be keeping some values and some essentials with you as an artist. So making sure, you know, whatever your values may be, if it's that you want to make sure that if you're opening up and you're doing things, you want to make sure that you're still connecting with your family or that network of people. You want to at least catch up for a phone call, a Zoom, a coffee, you know, once a month. It might be that you want to continue those practices and that mindfulness exercises, or it might be that you want to work on a particular craft, and to sort of not be caught up in the rat race of getting things going. We really want to make sure that everything is thought about, planned. I think we can really get caught up in the idea that we'll write a song, we'll put it on SoundCloud or whatever platform, and it'll blow up and off we go, when the reality is it's a slow burn, and we want to make sure that we're looking after ourselves during that slow burn. We want to make sure that we're implementing these self-care and mindfulness practices now and having that team now, because it's so much easier to implement it now and sort of grow that way than trying to implement these things, later on. So, I would just say to think, dream, and action everything sort of one step at a time, and to not put too much pressure on yourself. But yeah, it's very exciting. I think hopefully as, the next few months happen, people are sort of working on themselves, and the next sort of wave of tours and live music will be a little bit more educated. We'll have new practices, new friends, and new journeys. So yeah, it's a really exciting time.
Wonderful, Aimee, like such a wonderful list. We're going to put all of those strategies in a document for all the artists to be able to grab a hold of, so that we want this summit to be really practical. And I loved how practical that was. I just liked that last one, that the whole thing of like keeping the routine that you've got the same, even when things open up, and not just throwing all those healthy things away now that we can go back into normal life or whatever. I loved that one, and a challenge to do, but
Yes.
we can build it now so that it will grow with us as we continue. So as we kind of wrap this up, we're talking about mental health. Again, we're asking everyone, how are you managing your mental health? What are you doing? What are some activities or practices that have been helpful for you in this time?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Put me on the spot. No, not really. It's so interesting, isn't it, when you talk to people about their mental health, and then as a practitioner, you've got to talk about your own. But, I think for me, keeping things simple is such a big thing for me. I really can't expect too much of myself, because I'm almost setting myself up for failure. And that's very much relatable to artists as well. Like I was saying, those sort of bite-sized, attainable steps and goals that will get us to where we want to be over time. And for me, what I've done is I've sort of made my 5 essentials, and they're my 5 things that I love doing. Whether that be, I've got 2 little hounds, so I love them to bits. I've got a collection of plants that I love to tend to, moving my body, journaling, and also connecting with people. And they're sort of the things that, and cooking as well, so that's more than 5, but I love cooking as well. And also I think keeping the sort of sense of goals as well. I've got goals personally and professionally that we're working towards, Haymate's working towards, I'm working towards, study as well. So I think it's having those sort of really basic things that you enjoy doing, and just implementing them when you can. I think to make sure that we exercise for, X amount of time per day, and if we don't, we've failed. And that's the wrong way of going about things. We really want to be, at the moment, kind to ourselves. We can be doing all the right things, but at the end of the day, still feeling flat. And that's because, as we've, our biology is made up, we still know that there's some form of danger. So, whatever we're going through isn't over yet. So there's always that in the back of our mind. So I think taking care of myself, it's making sure I move my body. It's making sure I look after my plants. It's making sure I make contact with, friends and family, eating well. But yeah, it's just really basic stuff. I don't have any crazy shiny tips that I try to implement. I think those really little things, and setting those goals and working towards those goals as well, is what's really keeping me sane and in a good place. And also, I think it's really important to know that if we wake up and we have a bad day, we're just in a bad mood, or we just can't quite shake that funk, that we don't have to be 100% or even 85, 95% all of the time. It's okay to have those days where our body is just like rest, and it's okay to rest. In fact, rest is a form of self-care rather than being lazy. So I think it's also really important to sort of listen to your body as well in these sorts of chaotic times. But yeah, that's what I'm sort of doing to making sure I'm on the straight and narrow and working towards things, especially with Haymate. So I'm doing a lot of networking and meeting people online as well, so, and working towards things that hopefully will happen when it's safe to do so. So yeah, it's I've had it challenging. I've had those flat days, but I've also had those good days. So yeah, that's me.
That being kind to ourselves can be really hard to do, especially I'm such a doer and a productive person, and I get down when I'm not productive, and we have to be kind to ourselves, because our emotions are expensive. And I love what you were saying there as well about that whole threat of danger, and that our brain prioritizes, if they think this is dangerous, if they think this is going to take a lot of energy, it will protect us in different ways. Like our bodies are incredible.
Yes.
But when we're in this constant, it's like being an adrenaline junkie. We're in this constant state of danger. That has a negative effect. We're not meant to have adrenaline and all that stuff in our bodies for that period of time. So I find all that incredibly fascinating, how that all works, and why, heightened emotions for a really long period of time is actually detrimental and expensive on our bodies and all those crazy things. But
yeah, absolutely. No, we need to take care of ourselves. And I think also, turning the news off, or the media or our phone, any sort of technology, and doing some sort of self-care or reading, limiting the intake, absolutely, to help our bodies just sort of calm for a little while before we get that big wave of numbers and like you were saying, anxiety and adrenaline and stuff is really important. So, but yeah, it's incredible to things are beyond our control as well. I think accepting what we can control and what we can't control, and that's also biological as well, and that's so frustrating sometimes, because you just want to power through the day. But yeah, I mean, our body knows best, really. So keeping that in mind as well.
Fabulous. Hey, as we wrap this up, Aimee, would love to know if a summit attendee is interested in connecting with you. Maybe they thought, maybe I could, take some time to chat with someone or access some of your resources. How do they do that? Can they do that from anywhere in Australia? Can they do that from overseas? Give us a bit of an insight into what you guys do and how people can access your support services.
Yeah, absolutely. So we work obviously over Australia. We also provide services overseas. Part of our model is, once we open back up, hopefully some of our clients and our team members will be traveling with tours. So we're constantly working in different time zones, which I guess is super interesting. It keeps us on our toes. But to access our services, so we've obviously got the Haymate website, which is thehaymateproject.com. You can find us on Instagram and Facebook, the Haymate Project. And then there's also on our website, there's a button where you can book a chat with me for 10 minutes, and we can sort of go over whatever you'd like support with, or if you just want to know more about the Haymate Project. Or I'm on LinkedIn as well. So all those good fun channels. But mostly our website and our socials is a great place, and we've also got a 1300 number as well. So 1300 633 147 is our phone number.
So many ways to get connected. And so, some of the attendees, I really encourage you, reach out. Exactly what Aimee was saying is this: just got to try, just got to knock on the door.
Yeah.
It doesn't cost you anything, and you might be actually get something really great out of it as well. And Aimee, fabulous. Any kind of one final thoughts as we wrap up this incredible chat?
Oh my goodness. I feel like I've had all the thoughts. No, but I think it's, again, it's coming back down to, don't let what we're currently experiencing, end your dreams. Make sure, you're setting those really attainable goals for you, putting a plan in place, and really building a team that, I guess, really appreciates you and what you bring to the table. And I think taking part of this summit is the first step, in fact, a fabulous step to learning different skills and meeting different people. And yeah, it's wonderful that you put this on, Kate, because I know we've touched about this, on previous phone calls, but it's such a needed resource, especially at this time. But yeah, I would just say, don't give up, and also sort of be kind to yourself and take care of yourself is number one. So yeah, but thanks for having me. It's been so much fun.
So wonderful. Love being able to talk to people who are doing something that really has impact and is so important in the industry, and we want to normalize it, right? We want to make it just like you go and you have a physio. If you're a sports person, we have people that we talk to and connect with if we're in the arts industry, because we want to be doing this for a really long time. So pleasure
Totally.
talking with you, Aimee. You guys are amazing. Hope things go onwards and upwards for you guys, because I know that it's actually about supporting the industry. So thanks for being part of the summit.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.